Welcome, everybody. One of the things in American politics that sometimes takes getting used to, I guess we could say, is that it often is the case that something whose logic is completely backwards becomes mainstream and it gets repeated and repeated and repeated uncritically. So much so that people who are applying critical thinking will start to doubt themselves. It's almost like a self-gaslighting where they will go, even though it makes no sense to me, it must make sense to someone because I keep hearing it. Let me give you an example because I know I'm speaking sort of abstractly. Cut Medicaid to strengthen Medicaid. Most people would hear that and they would say, wait a second, how do you strengthen it by cutting it? Well, Republicans have been repeating that endlessly. And it's sort of presented as a genius new plan. Let's make Medicaid better by cutting it. And we're going to look at an example clip of this. It's Republican Senator Roger Marshall, who loves gutting health care for low-income Americans, but he's framing it as we're doing them a favor. Everybody should be thrilled that we're doing this to Medicaid. It's like saying we're going to help the hungry by taking away their food stamps. How is that going to help anybody? Well, we're going to have a lot more food floating around since they won't have food stamps with which to get the food. It makes no sense. But that's essentially what they're doing. And this is not a gaffe. This is the strategy. So let's talk about it after we take a look at this clip.
Do you believe that you will have the votes for this package and you will be able to identify more spending cuts by the July 4th deadline, or is this going to take longer?
Look, I'm still remain optimistic. Ron Johnson, Rick Scott, all those people, Mike Lee and I share the same goal. On the other hand, as you mentioned, we got folks that are afraid of the small Medicaid cuts that we made already, Medicaid cuts that are going to strengthen Medicaid and save it for those who need it the most. So we're pretty far apart yet. We have 53 Republican senators. We have 53 opinions. We're trying to work through all that. I've been real impressed with John Thune and Mike Crapo's ability to bring everybody together. You know, they're leading the charge right now, so I have confidence we'll get there. But we're not done, Maria. We will need to come back and do more rescissions, but also take a second and third bite of this apple. Let's get the one big beautiful bill across the finish line, then let's come back and get a second and third bite.
All right. Now, I know that my audience has a penchant for thinking critically, thinking for yourself, really trying to think through the logic. For example, if we cut taxes for the rich, how exactly is that good for poor people? You think it through, you go, oh, it's actually not. That's a lie that's been told. So let me explain to you the scam that they have been running for a very long time. And this is less about the Republican Party than it is sort of more broadly about this right-wing ideology. Sabotage a public program, point to how dysfunctional it is because you sabotaged it, and then say, see, it doesn't work. Government involvement doesn't work. The program doesn't work. Let's privatize it. Let's slash even more funding. Let's completely kill it. This is an old pattern in American politics and right-wing politics and even globally. So I'll give you a few examples of when Republicans have done this. They handicap a program, then say it sucks, and then they say it's so crappy it should be dismantled. The U.S. Postal Service. Republicans passed a law 20 years ago that made the USPS have to pre-fund 75 years of retiree benefits. Why? No private sector company does that. Doesn't make any sense to do that. But when you do that, it throws the books of the USPS out of whack. And then they go, look, it's completely upside down financially. Let's privatize it. Let's end this thing. Number two, public education. Republican lawmakers love slashing funding for public schools. And then they go, look, these schools are failing. Let's promote private schools. Let's do charter schools that take even more money away from private schools and then from public schools rather. And then the public schools get even worse. Number three, Obamacare. After it became clear that simply rescinding Obamacare wasn't going to happen, they tried to sabotage it, cut the budget for advertising to people. There is a thing as healthcare.gov. So people don't know, they don't use it. That hampers the program. Eliminate the cost sharing subsidies, block Medicaid expansion at the state level. And then they said, look, we passed Obamacare, but premiums are still going up. Well, to a degree, it's because of the problems that you are creating. And of course, to a degree, the idea is Obamacare didn't stop premiums from going up, but they went up a little more slowly within healthcare.gov's plans. Okay, getting into the details. Veterans Affairs, the VA. Instead of investing in the VA system, Republicans underfund it, and then they go look at the wait times in the VA system. Let's privatize, let's do veterans' choice and bring things into the private sector. Amtrak, there's so many examples of this. Chronically underfund Amtrak, have limited routes, don't do route expansion, keep the number of trains limited. You know, there's a sort of an anecdotal story from where I grew up in Western Massachusetts, where they finally got a train from Northampton, Massachusetts to New York City, except the scheduling and the routing is, number one, insanely slow, and two, makes it impossible to do a day trip, which the idea would be some commuters, if you could get in and out reasonably on that route, with one day, you could go down, have meetings or whatever you have to do, and then come back. The scheduling and the duration of the route make it impossible. I don't know anyone who chooses to take that train instead of driving for these one-day sort of business type trips, because it's just an impossibility. So Amtrak, and then food stamps as well. Add work requirements, add paperwork, delay to reduce enrollment, and then say, look, this program has fraud. It's not helping people. Let's get rid of it. Let's kneecap it. So none of this about let's cut Medicaid to strengthen Medicaid is actually about making Medicaid better. It's about making Medicaid unusable. So then they can say it's failing. Let's get rid of it. Now, do they really think that voters will buy this? Maybe not, but that's not really the point anymore. They're not even trying to make sense. They're building a narrative to justify cruelty. And at this point, they even believe their own lies. And the clown show doesn't stop there. I've got one more Roger Marshall clip here trying to explain to Maria Bartiromo, how do you grow the economy? We had this decline in GDP in Q1. Now we basically need 4% growth for what's left of the year in order to end up somewhere around 2% growth. How do you do it? And Roger Marshall goes, our attitude.
A lot of these senators are not really looking at the kind of growth that you're expecting or that the White House is expecting. Kevin Hassett said to expect 4%, potentially 4% growth in the second half of the year. What would trigger that kind of growth in your view in the second half?
Lying.
Well, I think number one is just an attitude. Already back home, I'm seeing manufacturing jobs grow and grow and grow that we can't keep up with the orders. And I think that's probably because of President Trump's tariffs. I think the deregulation will add a 0.5%, maybe a 1% growth. I think those are the first steps. But it's just this general attitude that we're the start of a new economy. I think that the American consumer still drives the economy in so many ways. And I think that this tax bill alone is going to drive up growth as well. By making those Trump tax cuts permanent, it's going to give us significant growth. I think about R&D especially.
Yeah. Listen, I am a beneficiary of those Trump tax cuts insofar as it introduced something called the qualified business income deduction. I don't think I deserve it. I will take it, sure. But I can assure you it's not driving growth. That doesn't make any sense. Now, as far as we need the right attitude, I would go further. I would say cross your fingers and toes as well. Although, does that cancel it out? I'm not sure. It's just attitude, guys. That's all you need. And so this reflects a deeper Republican problem right now. They have replaced policy with vibes. We have to have the right attitude as a form of saying the vibes need to be right. Trump started this. He didn't understand the economy. He felt like a successful businessman. He told people, I know what we need to do intuitively. And people like Roger Marshall are now doing the exact same thing, which is if we believe hard enough, maybe we do a little prayer, who knows? The economy is simply going to flourish. Negative GDP growth in Q1 be damned. And by the way, Q1, of course, January, February, March. April, May, June is Q2. So we're in now the final month of Q2. In about 1 month, we will find out the GDP number for Q2. I hope that it's up. There are fears that it will be even more negative than Q1, and that's going to put us in an even bigger hole. So you don't fix a broken engine with prayer or by complimenting the engine. You're such a beautiful engine. I've never seen piston rods like yours. You actually have to do something that mechanically works. What Roger Marshall is doing is getting us nowhere. And you know the latest person to turn on this entire thing, his name rhymes with Leon Fusk. Let me talk about that. You know, every time we call out Donald Trump's authoritarianism, the right calls it media hysteria. But I want to remind you that Trump admits he's looking for ways to defy the Constitution and maybe even pursue another term. Now, if you don't know the bias behind your news, you might believe, oh, Trump's just teasing us. There's nothing here. Go to ground.news/Pacman and see how media bias influences more than your perception from Trump's policy and ability to understand and undermine constitutional norms. I've been with Ground News for years now because this is what they do. They expose the hidden agendas behind reporting sources and make it easy to compare coverage and understand critical issues. Even better, if I'm reading a story on another site, the Ground News browser extension will flag the source's political bias and give me other reports on the same story so I can verify the information. My viewers get 40% off the same unlimited Vantage plan that I use, so you get their top tier plan for just $5 a month. Go to ground.news/Pacman. The link is in the description, or scan the QR code.